My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to break down the entire UFC Vegas 74 fight card, giving you my picks, my predictions, and my DraftKings plays. And we have been wildly successful. We, as in the We Want Picks community, every single ticket on this screenshot is from a premium member. And they went out of their way to thank us and give us credit for helping them make this money. Jack Spade won $78,000 with his DraftKings lineup, $50,000 from Jeffrey and his DraftKings lineup. Mitch made a couple of $1,000s on his. We had another $12,000 lineup from Under Control. This is the last 3 weeks. This isn't over 9 years. This is 3 weeks. If we go back 6 months, Joey Todoro won $60,000. This is not by accident. We have the sharpest community in this space. Our premium members understand the game. They get it. They absorb content. They participate. They use the tools. They use the information. And they're very, very smart and very good at what they do. And B, our premium membership has more tools, information, and content than anybody could ever need to build lineups like this. When you're a premium member for only $10 freaking a month, you come in here, we will break down every single fighter that you should have in your cash core, your GPP core, the live underdogs, the leverage. We give you a cheat sheet. This will be populated every Friday by 6 p.m. with the fighters, their salaries, the ownership projections, the scoring projections, and the leverage calculation. We then take every single fighter and rank them by salary for the type of contest you might be playing. And then on top of that, you can take all that information and throw it into the lineup optimizer. This literally builds lineups for you. It'll build one lineup. It'll build 150 lineups. It'll be pre-populated with the ownership projections, the scoring projections, and then you make a few selections who you really like, who you hate, and it will do the rest. All of that. All of it, everything I've mentioned, and then so much more is available to you instantly for $10 a month. Not a week, a month. We're in a 9-event stretch right now. That $10 is going to get you 4 events. WeWantPicks.com. At the top, click Become a Member. It's $10. I shouldn't even have to pitch it at this point. Let's go ahead and break down this card. Wild card. Wild card. It was already a tough card. We had 3 drops this week. In the last 7 days, we've had 3 drops with 3 new opponents. So this card is absolutely all over the place. Let's go ahead and break it down. We'll start at the bottom, work our way to the top. And opening up the card, we have Philipe Lins taking on Maxim Grishin. This fight was supposed to happen in October. It didn't. It has been rebooked. Since then, Philipe Lins has fought. He knocked out Ovince St. Preux, put big numbers on the board. Pretty big favorite in that fight, but he lived up to those expectations with a very, very quick knockout. Big power in his hands. He is a former heavyweight. He carried that power down with him. But he honestly, I don't think he looks great. He looks a little slow, looks a little labored, a little lumbered. But he is absolutely a very, very good grappler. But he's a hittable striker, and he's fighting Maxim Grishin. Maxim Grishin is a striker. He's the better striker of the two. He likes to throw in combinations, and he loves sitting on a big right hand. His last fight was last year, more than a year ago, and he took on William Knight. This is the William Knight that was still good. Maxim Grishin survived an onslaught. He fought the old William Knight, the one that would come forward and try to get things done, swinging wild, the powerful, dangerous William Knight. And Max was in some fire. It got dicey, and he pulled himself through, squeaked out that win, and got it done. I think the Philipe Lins fight goes similarly. I think Philipe is going to come forward. He just knocked out Ovince St. Preux. He thinks he's the big dog. He's going to come swinging wild. Maxim will survive an early flurry, and then we'll start to pick up the pace, start to get the kicks going, start to get the striking going, and really make it happen. Maxim does get taken down, so I'm going to leave this fight alone. I'm certainly not going to play Maxim at $8,800. If you're going to use one of them, I do think Maxim wins. But if you're going to throw one of them in your lineup, it's got to be Philipe Lins. Power in his hands, better grappler, could probably win this fight. I think it's a razor close fight. So if you need an underdog, Philipe Lins is a solid one. Then we got Luan Lacerda taking on Damon Blackshear. I'll tell you right now, I like Damon Blackshear here. So Luan Lacerda is a very slick grappler. He can strike as well. He comes forward. He's sort of reckless with his striking, but he throws with intent. No rhyme or reason, but with intent and a ton of power. And then he'll work some trips in and get you to the ground. He doesn't have the greatest takedowns, but he does have really slick submissions, and he's a threat from absolutely everywhere on the ground. He's taken on Blackshear. Blackshear has not gotten a UFC win yet, right? A draw against Yusuf Zalal in a pretty crazy fight. And then he fought Farid Basharat, not Javid, Farid, the younger brother. But he actually looked really good in this loss. He defended some takedowns, a bunch of takedowns actually, got his own takedown, had a reversal, landed some strikes. He looked good in that fight, and it was almost had Farid out, almost put him out. And his corner said, you need to come forward, you need to get busy. And that's exactly what he did in that fight. So yes, 0-2 in the UFC, or 1-1 in the UFC. But I do like Blackshear in this fight. I think he can work hard. He's a durable guy. He can defend takedowns, got dangerous hands, slick as well on the ground. We've seen the reversal in the Farid fight. You go back to his CFFC title fight, incredible slick back take and submission there. So I think Blackshear is going to get this done, and $7,500 is a great price point. Even if he loses, look at these points. He put up 42 points in a loss. That's solid. Let's go on to the next fight. Then we have Elise Reed versus Jinh Frey. This is a very interesting fight. First of all, Elise Reed opened up as a decent-sized underdog, is closing as the favorite, and she has favorite money in DraftKings. She's busy. Not great at any one thing, but she's busy. She's very active. She's going to come forward. She's going to throw. She does have power in her hands, especially for this weight class. She's going to throw with the power. She's going to try to get takedowns. She's just going to keep coming and trying to make something happen. But again, she's not great anywhere. She's not the better fighter in this matchup, but she's certainly younger, certainly hits harder, and will certainly be more active. And I think that's why she flipped to a favorite. And it's just so hot and cold. Like, all right, she lost to Shachara Eubanks in her UFC debut, fine. Then she fought Corey McKenna. And I think I picked her to beat Corey McKenna because my breakdown was always Elise Reed is actually pretty good. And she smoked Corey McKenna. She was an underdog there, made that happen. Then Sam Hughes just beats the brakes off of Elise Reed. Then Elise comes back, beats Martinez, has a knockdown, couple of takedowns, and then Loma Lookboonmee beat the brakes off her as well. But she showed her toughness. So I totally understand why people are picking Elise, why Elise has become the favorite. She's tough, she has power in her hands, and she's a gritty fighter, and she's fighting Jinh Frey. A few years ago, Jinh Frey was like a very reliable, dependable fighter, but she's older now. She's 38. She was just knocked out cold. This was a very bad knockout. And it wasn't that long ago. We're talking November. I mean, okay, 7 months, 8 months. That's not that long ago, right? It's a long time, but she was knocked out cold and she's 38 years old. That's the only thing that concerns me, because if her chin is fine, right? If her brains are back to normal, they're not scrambled, her chin is fine, she can take whatever power Elise throws at her, then Jinh Frey wins this fight. She comes forward, she's boring as shit, holds you against the cage, maybe gets a takedown, and that's basically how it's going to go. So I do think actually Jinh Frey will win. I think she does that. The problem is she doesn't score that well. Like 72 points, that's not terrible, but 65 in a decision win, that's not great. You need more out of somebody like that. So I'm going to fade Frey. If you think Elise Reed gets a knockout, then throw her in there. If not, just leave this alone. Then we have Jamie Mullarkey. He is taking on a UFC debut, Naimov. Jamie Mullarkey, similar to what I said about Elise Reed. He's not amazing anywhere, but he's got solid grappling. He's got solid cardio, solid hands. He's going to come forward. He's good everywhere, great nowhere. But he is a busy guy. He started his career as a grappler, sort of turned into a striker for a little bit there, and now he seems to be back to grappler with that win over Prado with those 3 takedowns. Originally, he was supposed to fight a killer of a striker. His face was going to be hamburger meat, and this dude was going to look really, really bad. But Garam Kutaladze dropped. Now he has a new opponent, short notice guy. He is taking on Muhammadjon Naimov. And it's an interesting fight. Muhammadjon Naimov is stepping up on short notice, as I mentioned. And it completely turns this fight on its head because Naimov is a very well-rounded guy. He does prefer to strike, but he can wrestle when he needs to. He bounces between featherweight and lightweight, so he's not going to be the bigger guy in this matchup. He's a fast guy, an athletic guy. He's got old-school martial arts, so you're going to see like Taekwondo, I believe he has. You're going to see those sort of striking techniques. He's going to defend takedowns early in the fight and then start to get his own later in the fight as he slows down. Muhammadjon is actually a very good fighter. And full camp, he's a tough matchup for Jamie Mullarkey. But I do think Jamie Mullarkey is going to win this fight. He had the full camp. He's fought UFC level guys for a very long time now. He was preparing for an absolute murderer of a striker. So I'm assuming that he was going to wrestle hard. And if he wrestles hard here, he should be okay with Muhammadjon Naimov. So Jamie Mullarkey should be in your lineup, especially at $6,700. And that's because that was his original pricing when he was a 3-1 underdog, whatever the hell he was. And then they don't adjust the pricing. So $6,700, Jamie Mullarkey is sort of a no-brainer in your lineup. Then we have John Castaneda. He's another guy taking on a short notice UFC debut opponent. John Castaneda, Division II wrestler, very active, very busy, comes forward no matter what. He's just constantly coming forward, trying to get takedowns, trying to throw hands, trying to make something happen. He has no power, but he's very, 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 very busy. And he can get takedowns. The problem is he can also be taken down. Division II wrestler, but he's got no takedown defense at all. He's coming off this loss to Daniel Santos, where that's one of the worst losses we've seen him take. He got pretty beat up in that fight. He almost had Daniel Santos out cold, and he chased the knockout, and then he just gassed himself out and then sort of broke because Daniel Santos kept coming. But John Castaneda, very good, very active, very busy fighter. He's taking on UFC newcomer Muin Gafurov, Jacob's lock of the week. I think he wins this fight as well. The problem is he's $7,800. I was really hoping he'd be like, I don't know, much more affordable than that. You know what I mean? But he is $7,800. That is underdog money in DraftKings. This guy has a very good Sambo wrestling background, so he's got very good takedowns. He has a similar style to John Castaneda, where he's going to come forward, solid pressure. He does have power in his hands. He will get into a firefight. He gets dropped, right? He hasn't been knocked out yet, but he does get dropped. But so did Daniel Santos when John Castaneda fought him, and how did that turn out? So I actually like Muin to win this fight as well. So I would put him in my lineup, $7,800. But if you like John Castaneda, if you like the fact that he had a full camp, then stick with John Castaneda, because this is going to be a high-scoring fight. You should have either one of these guys in your lineup, but I do like Muin Gafurov. Then we have Don'Tale Mayes, and he is taking on Andrei Arlovski. And this is another fight where the underdog became the favorite. Andrei Arlovski opened up as a solid favorite. He is now the underdog, which means Don'Tale Mayes is now the favorite. $8,500 in DraftKings, just slight favorite money there. He's not good at anything except power. He's got very good power, decent footwork, decent boxing, but it's a bit sloppy. We've seen him work in takedowns, right? He had 6 against Josh Parisian. He had 1 against Roque Martinez, but he's not really a wrestler. His striking is dangerous, but not accurate, if that makes sense. And the reality is, people are just afraid of Andrei Arlovski's chin in this fight, because Andrei Arlovski, you're going to see here in a second that he lost by submission. He was dropped. It wasn't really a submission. He was dropped and then submitted. So his chin showed some issues in that fight. And I think that's what's happened with the line movement. I think that's happened with the money here. People are like, well, Don'Tale Mayes, big, strong, powerful guy. He hits hard. Andrei Arlovski's chin is gone. And it might be gone. But the reality is he's 44 years old, so it should be gone if it's not. But I don't know if Don'Tale Mayes is going to win this fight. The fact that, I mean, he has power, but he's been to plenty of decisions. Andrei Arlovski, tried and true vet, can come forward, get Don'Tale against the cage, sort of hold him there, use that in and out. Andrei Arlovski will be literally better everywhere except raw power. He's going to have better footwork. He's going to have the better cardio. He's going to have the better hands. He's going to have the higher fight IQ, all the things. I still can't throw in my lineup, though, because even when he wins 69, 57, 63, these are not good scores. You need more out of a winner in your lineup. So I'm not going to have Andrei Arlovski in my lineup, even though I do think he wins this fight, and I'm definitely not going to have Don'Tale Mayes in my lineup. But if you think he gets this wild knockout, then maybe he's for you. Then we have Daniel Santos taking on Johnny Munoz Jr. This is a fight. This was rebooked. This was supposed to happen 3 weeks ago, I believe, maybe 4 weeks ago. And Daniel Santos had to pull out of the fight like 2 days before because he had an abscess on his leg. They had to cut it off. I don't know if it was like, oh, a skin tag, or if the dude's knee is busted up, so it's like, fluid is pooling up somewhere. I don't know what the issue was, but it was enough to cancel the fight. If it was just something stupid, they wouldn't have canceled the fight. They would have left it alone, right? So whatever it was enough to cancel the fight. We're a couple weeks later. Is he 100% ready to go? We have to assume so, right? And if he is, then he wins this fight. And $9,200 is a good price point because this dude's a killer. He's an old school shoot box fighter. He's basically Charles Oliveira. He comes forward, has phenomenal hands, has slick submissions and scrambles, and he can put you out. He can submit you. He just broke John Castaneda, as we talked about. So I like Daniel Santos to win this fight. There is a risk, though. He's fighting Johnny Munoz Jr. I don't think Johnny Munoz Jr. is going to be able to submit Daniel Santos, even though Munoz is going to be the better grappler. But I do think he could potentially take him down and hold him down. Johnny Munoz is a BJJ black belt. Striking is okay, but his takedowns are mediocre, but his grappling is very, very slick. His grappling IQ is absolutely through the roof. There is a world where he takes down Daniel Santos, sort of holds him down, hangs on him and stuff like that. The problem is Johnny's takedowns aren't very good. Johnny, gets knocked out. Tony Gravely knocked him out with a punch that was this far. So I do think Daniel Santos wins this fight. And because we have a Jamie Mullarkey at that price point, because we have a few of these really affordable people, we got to go with the more expensive ones as well. So Daniel Santos should be in your lineup at $9,200. Then we have Elizeu Zaleski taking on Abubakar Nurmagomedov. Another fight. The underdog has become the favorite, but DraftKings was behind that trend. So Elizeu Zaleski is $8,300. He's the favorite in DraftKings. In the betting world, he is the underdog. This line has flipped. He is now the underdog. He's a slick guy. He hasn't fought in a while. It's a year and a half. It's been a long time. But the reality is Elizeu Zaleski is a solid grappler, solid striker. He's dangerous everywhere. And he's a pretty good fighter, right? Like, he's got very real power in his hands. He's very athletic. He's dangerous on the ground. He's got that capoeira style, that dance fighting style, the Michelle Pajeda style when he's doing all the crazy shit. But he hasn't fought in a while. And he can be taken down. And that's why Abubakar has become the favorite. You're going to see the last name. You're going to assume, listen, yes, he is Nurmagomedov. Yes, his game plan is to come forward, is to wrestle. But I say this with respect. He's the worst of the Nurmagomedovs. His wrestling is not the same level as the others, right? He's going to shoot a million takedowns. He's going to be relentless with them, but he's not getting all of them. It's like a 20% takedown accuracy or something to that effect. He does have great control when he gets it to the ground. He can be very dangerous. I'm just kidding. There's no danger here. The dude can only win a decision if he wins this fight. And I'm totally fine with that. I do think he's going to get the takedowns. I do think he'll avoid the submissions. You don't ever worry about that sort of aspect here. Although David Zawada was able to submit Nurmagomedov, he got a little over aggressive. He got caught in that. But the reality is, I believe Abubakar Nurmagomedov wins this fight. 75 points, 72 points is not as much as I would like. And $7,900 is a lot of money, so I probably won't have him in my lineup. But I do have a bet on him. I got him at underdog money. He's now favorite money. I do think he wins this fight. I also think that fight goes to a decision. Then we have Karine Silva taking on Ketlen Souza. This is an interesting fight. Karine Silva, 15 wins in her career with 15 stoppages. All 4 losses are decisions. She either finishes you, which is the vast majority of the time, or loses a decision. And there is a bit of a concern here because her opponent is very tough. We'll talk about her in a second, but Karine is a very good grappler. She's going to constantly look for submission. She will pound away on top. She will get you down and just look to beat the absolute shit out of you. Whether it's a TKO from top, whether it's a submission, she's just an absolute savage once it gets to the ground. And her takedowns are decent enough to get it to the ground with most people. She had taken on Ketlen Souza. Ketlen Souza is good. She belongs in the UFC. They're not feeding Karine a can. But it's a tough UFC debut. And Ketlen just did win the Invicta Championship a few months ago. She loves to pressure forward. She's got heavy strikes. She will work in her own takedown occasionally. Everything she does is big kicks, big punches. She will just crush your face in Muay Thai plums and in tie-ups and things like that. Her only issue is when she gets takedowns, it's all just raw strength, so there's not really much technique. And sometimes she can just hang out on the ground. She's not very active on the ground. She's not looking for something. She's just sort of hanging out. And that's not going to work with Karine Silva. So Karine Silva should win this fight. And we have a lot of room in our lineup to afford her. So I like Karine Silva. She'll be in my lineup, $9,300. That money will be spent. Then we got Tim Elliott versus Victor Altamirano. This is a tricky fight because Tim Elliott is very expensive. He should win this fight. He's a gritty guy. He's never going to stop. He's going to come forward constantly. He hasn't fought in about a year and a half, but he's just the definition of grit, constantly coming forward, constantly trying to work in takedowns, constantly striking. And his striking is not technical, but it's just nonstop forward pressure, forward movement. He will take you down. He'll work from there. The knock on him, though, is he will lose positions. He will be like in a phenomenal position on top, just start going crazy and make a bad choice, chasing a submission, lose it, then end up on his back, stuff like that. But he's a high-pressure guy that is going to stay in your face. And the reason he's such a big favorite here is he's fighting Victor Altamirano. Victor Altamirano is very good, but he looked like absolute shit in this fight. Yes, he beat Vinicius Salvador, but he did not look good doing it. And there's a lot of recency bias built into this. Victor Altamirano, he's fast. He's powerful on his feet, but he also can be patient. He can be calculated. He has a really nice striking differential of 6-4, so he's landing 6 strikes for every 4 that he receives. His takedown defense has improved. It's not great, and that's the biggest issue with this fight. I think Victor Altamirano can actually win this fight. I think he's much better than the win he just had, right? That performance sucked. He looked bad in that fight, but he is much better than that fight. My big concern for him is his takedown defense is only 53%, and he does get taken down. And if Tim Elliott just comes forward looking for takedowns, he's going to take him down, ride him out. And that's my problem. I do think Tim Elliott wins. I think this is probably a pretty high-scoring fight in either direction. And even though it's 9,000 fighter, 8,200 fighter, I think it's okay to pick your side. Because Altamirano can surprise a lot of people here. He's very good. He's very dangerous. Tim Elliott's coming off the wild wife cheating drama, and he hasn't fought in a year, where Victor Altamirano, yes, he just fought. Yes, he looked like shit, but he's active. He's busy. He's dangerous. So pick your side in this fight. This isn't just go with a favorite kind of fight, because Tim Elliott's definitely going through some shit in real life right now, and that may not translate well into the fight. Then we have Jim Miller. Jim Miller has his third opponent this week. He was supposed to fight Ludovic Klein. He was going to get his ass kicked, so they priced him at $7,100. That didn't work out. Ludovic was done. So they brought in Jared Gordon last minute, said, I'll take the fight. Fat fuck weighed 200 pounds. Couldn't cut the weight. Fight was canceled a couple of days before Saturday. Then they bring in a UFC newcomer. UFC newcomer stepping up. We'll talk about him in a second. So now we have Jim Miller priced at $7,100, fighting a UFC newcomer on 2 days' notice. Jim Miller should be in your lineup. Jim Miller should win this fight. I get it. He's 39 years old. I actually thought he was going to be like 55 with the amount of fights that he has. But he's 39 years old. But he is not short. Yes, he looked old in the Hernandez fight. He did look older and slower in that fight. But he's not breaking down. He's not getting knocked out cold. He's older. He's slower, but he's still a technical striker. He's still a very, very good grappler. And he still can be dangerous. I mean, he had 3 stoppages in a row before he lost to Alexander Hernandez, where, again, he did not look great in that fight, but that was a few months ago. He's active. He's busy. Tried and true. Jersey tough. $7,100 should be in your lineup. But let's talk about his opponent. He's taking on Jesse Butler. Jesse Butler's just sort of a tough kid. He's on a nice little 5-fight win streak coming into the UFC. His takedown offense, mediocre. Takedown defense sucks. His takedown defense is awful. But he is a grappler. So he gets taken down. He starts working from there. He's got plenty of submissions off his back. His striking, not great, but he will come forward. He will bomb away, and he's not afraid to get into a slugfest. I think this is a great matchup for Jim Miller. A UFC newcomer that may have some UFC jitters, who is a grappler. Jim Miller's going to be the better grappler. Jim Miller's takedowns are not very good, but Jesse Butler's takedown defense sucks. So Jim Miller should win this fight. You're going to get him at $7,100. He should be in your lineup. He may even get another stoppage, his 4th stoppage in his last 5 fights. So let's go ahead, throw Jim Miller in there at $7,100. Jesse Butler, you could say he earned this shot with his 5-fight win streak, stepping up on short notice, but I don't see it going his way, and Jim Miller should put some real points on the board there. Co-main event, Alex Caceres, Daniel Pineda. This is a pick your side fight. I get it. Alex Caceres, $8,900. I get it. But Okay, he knocked out Julian Erosa. Wow, that's incredible. He was an underdog. I can't believe he did that. Julian Erosa has been knocked out again since. Julian Erosa sort of done, right? Before that, lost to Yusuf. Beat Choi. That was a good win. Kevin Kroom, that was trash. Springer, trash. Hooper, sucks. Peterson, not very good. So, yes, Alex Caceres is a tried and true vet at this point. He's a young guy. He's been around forever. Sort of that karate style, point striking, slick grappling, right? He'll make stuff happen in scrambles. He does scramble well. He's pretty accurate. Alex Caceres is good. I don't want to make it sound like he sucks. But I'm saying this is a juice line based off of the recency bias with the Julian Erosa fight. And Julian Erosa has shown us that he's not the old Julian Erosa. So Alex Caceres, $8,900 is a very high price point for somebody like him. He's taking on Daniel Pineda. Daniel Pineda is feast or famine. That's sort of the problem here. 28 wins, 14 losses. The dude almost never sees a scorecard. That's just not something that is in this guy's sort of bank, if you will, right? He's getting knocked out. He's knocking people out. He's getting submitted. He's losing, he's submitting people. He's very, very, very dangerous, but it's only for a few minutes. So I actually do think Alex Caceres can weather that early storm, can avoid the wildness that is Daniel Pineda, then slow it down and then just do that, karate, point fighting, touch go style to get himself a decision win. But the reality is Daniel Pineda is dumb dangerous. And if you like Daniel Pineda to be that dangerous, if you think he can stop what I think is a little bit of an overrated Alex Caceres thrown in your lineup, I do think Caceres wins. I am not spending $8,900 on Alex Caceres. Absolutely not. Not in this fight. And I know I'm going to look stupid because Daniel Pineda gets stopped. So if Caceres wins, he very easily could win by stoppage. But hindsight is 20/20. I'm going to avoid the potential landmine. And if I have a little bit of regret for not throwing in my lineup, it is what it is. You can take your chances with your lineup. We got the main event. This truly is a pick your side main event. The odds have flipped all week. Whoever the underdog is, the next day is the favorite. And then people are just betting on the underdog. And that's because it's a 50-50 fight. We have Kai Kara France, a proven entity in the UFC. He's a striker coming off his second loss to Brandon Moreno, but he's got decent takedown defense at 87%. He's a slick striker, slick kickboxer, makes things happen, and he's a proven entity. He has beaten people at this level. Yeah, Cody Garbrandt is a little washed when he beat him, but Bontorin doesn't suck. Askarov was very good when he beat him. Jacob's going to say, don't listen to Jacob about Askarov. Askarov was very good when he beat him. So I understand if you're on the Kai Kara France side, go for it. $8,200, great price. Throw him in your lineup. He's taking on Amir Albazi. If you're on his side, go for it. He's $8,000. Put him in your lineup. Amir Albazi is a killer. He's got wrestling when he wants to wrestle. He has striking when he wants to strike. You can't go by this Costa fight because that was short notice bullshit against the UFC debut. And yeah, he smoked him, put up big numbers. But the Figueiredo fight, that was solid. Zuma Gulov, 79 points. That's decent. Now, Zalgas was on that 100-fight losing streak, whatever the hell it is. But we all knew he was better than that losing streak. Jared Gordon got that done as well. Albazi has proven to be a killer, but at what level? Right? We got Kai Kara France, proven entity, has wins at the UFC level against true UFC guys. Amir Albazi, yes, has wins in the UFC, but against losing record type guys. Pick your side. I personally think Kai Kara France is the side, but I'm not going to argue. This is not an argument. I'm not going to argue with anybody on the Amir Albazi side. This guy has shown us he can submit you. He can knock you out. He can work you all the way to a decision. So pick your side in this fight. It's actually a very, very solid main event. Guys, don't forget, we have the sharpest community in this game, period, end of story. They're putting up massive numbers. We had a $60,000 DraftKings lineup a few months ago, $78,000 a few weeks ago, $50,000 a few weeks ago, $12,000 a few weeks ago. I mean, the community is sharp as hell, and every single one of these tickets are only from premium members. Become a premium member today. You'll unlock the optimizer. This will build lineups for you. You're going to get all the insight, all the information, a cheat sheet with the best ownership projections in the game. That is a proven fact. WeWantPicks.com. It's $10 a month to unlock literally everything. Just go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member at the top.